Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. There might be some stragglers, but either way, this talk is going to be recorded. We have patrons and people that did buy tickets that are going to watch it later, I know for sure. And this will go out into the universe and be out there forever. And again, our patrons do have access to all our classes. I know some people ask me like, why are you charging for this? Well, really, this class is for my patrons, the people that I'm mentoring. They actually get a pretty good. This is part of the mentoring package. The tickets are just for people who are outsiders who want to kind of peek in. But I encourage you to sign up to be a patron. That's where you're going to get the best bang for your buck. You get live classes, resources from me, personal mentoring. Every day I make two inspirational videos. One, hey Jerome, one inspired by Buddhist monks and one inspired by Christian monks, and then just whatever my thoughts are. So there's a lot that you get. You know, there's spiritual books, Buddhist books everywhere, and that's great. There's books and podcasts and talks, and I love all of them. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes you need a mentor, you need a teacher, someone to work with you side by side. And my rates are super affordable compared to, you know, life coaches and things like that. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to talk a little bit about me. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. There we go.
I'm excited.
Cool, man. Glad to see you here. So I want to talk a little bit about me. Hey, my name is Jesse. I am 31 years old. I currently live in Los Angeles. I'm actually born and raised in San Diego. I do identify as genderqueer. If you don't know what that means, look it up. I'm an ex-love and sex addict, proud to be free from that. I'm an ex-artist, an ex-sales manager. I enjoy punk, hardcore, indie music, and more. I enjoy binge watching anything HBO, Christopher Nolan films, a lot of other stuff. And I love to be lazy and lay at the park and just relax. The reason why I am doing what I'm doing is because, you know, Buddha's message has personally set me from, and this is no exaggeration, again, a love and sex addiction, self-centeredness, fear, anxiety, anger, jealousy, the need to please others, snobbery and pride, social shyness, or you can put social anxiety for some of you, and more. And again, this is not an exaggeration to make a sale or something like that. I'm just telling my story. I'm just a person who's been where we've all been, and you know, this message and the practices and the messages that come from Buddha have really helped me, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Today's talk, I just want you to have an open mind and just pretend that me and you are talking as friends at a coffee shop or at the bar or over a cocktail or a brew or something. You know, in a past life, I was actually a Christian minister. And I bring that up because one thing that I learned at that time was that, you know, we hear the word preaching. And what I learned was that there's teaching and there's preaching. And teaching is taught, but preaching is caught. And so, I had a gift of inspiring people, and so that's the preaching part. Is when people are not taking notes, they're not using their analytical brains, they're not in the classroom, they're just open and listening. They're not being critical. Doesn't mean you have to believe everything, but they're just listening. And what happens is you say certain things that they need to hear, and it just wakes up something in them. It's just something happens to them where they get something. Like I said, they catch it. And then now they're motivated and they're inspired and they're motivated to, go get a book about that topic or go learn more, get your mind caught up with what your heart realized. But the heart is the first part. And that's my story. You know, I got into Buddhism because of a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, super famous Buddhist. Everybody knows him when you think of Buddhism or Zen. And I read the book with an open mind. What he was speaking about, in my heart, I just saw what he was speaking about. I didn't fully understand everything in my head. It's taken me 6 years now to unpack all of this. But even though I knew it in my heart, I actually I felt like a weight lift off my shoulders. I felt better. I felt more free. And so now I'm motivated to go on this journey of freedom. And that's why I started reading the books and going to Buddhist things and meditating and stuff like that. So you got to get the first part, you got to get the heart right, and then things will happen. So I encourage you, if you're a studious person, listen, you're going to get a copy of this class. You can take notes later. You're going to get the slides. So just listen. Sometimes we want to like grab onto something and just listen. We will do a Q&A. We'll do that at the end. If you have a burning question you want to write down, go ahead and do that. But again, I really encourage you. This is not a class. No work here, no mental effort. Just go ahead and enjoy. And I also want to say too, maybe you don't identify as a Buddhist, maybe you never plan to, maybe you're a little critical of Buddhism. That's okay. You don't have to become a Buddhist to hear what I'm saying. Some of the things that I'm saying are just true because they're true. And, you know, you don't have to subscribe to a creed or a religion. You know, look at it like, I mean, you know, like anything in the world that we do, you know, what Christians and Muslims eat In-N-Out Burger, right? I mean, it's just something that we do that helps us. So Buddhism is not really a religious thing. You know, some have compared it to just like psychology, like just working with ourselves and realizing things about ourselves and how things are to help us. So you can be an atheist, you can be agnostic, you can be a Hindu, you can be this, that, or the other, and learn things from Buddhism that are going to help you in your own life and even in your own spiritual life. So, you know, what I want to ask you is, you know, what will Buddhism mean to you? There's a couple things in Buddhism that I don't personally understand or maybe believe. I don't knock it. I just kind of leave it on the shelf. Like, you know, okay, I don't hate it, I don't love it, I don't get it. But I don't subscribe to everything. So that's the same thing. Like I said earlier, just have an open mind and just listen. The things that speak to you, great. The things that don't, let it pass over you. Let it come and let it go. And we're going to have a great time. So this wouldn't be a proper Buddhist meeting without a little bit of meditation, right? So don't worry, we're just going to do 3 minutes. It's not going to kill you, I promise you. Even when I was new to Buddhism, sometimes I didn't want to meditate. I just wanted to learn stuff, but it really is helpful. It's going to, you know, it's 11 a.m. Maybe you're barely waking up. Maybe you've been through a few things throughout your day. It's just good to press the restart button and just pause. And like when you eat sushi, you take the ginger to cleanse your palate. So we're going to go ahead and meditate for 3 minutes. It will be a guided meditation because I kind of want to walk you through some things. If you want to do your own thing, that's fine. But I am going to go ahead and walk you through that. So let me get my timer going here. Okay, so here we go. I want you to keep your eyes open. Keep your spine straight. Pretend that there is a thread going from the bottom of your spine, through your spine, all the way up into the sky, keeping your back straight. That way you're straight, but you're relaxed. And I want you to just casually and restfully look at your keyboard or the desk in front of you or what have you, okay? The good news is you don't have to be mindful of the keyboard. Your eyes are already looking at the keyboard. Just point your eyeballs there and your eyes do all the work. You don't have to be mindful. Mindfulness is already happening. Just get in touch with the mindfulness that's already happening. Just be aware of the awareness that's already happening. And usually the mental effort that wants to think or desire something or go something in the world of the mind, well, now you're using that energy and you're using that focus to just look at your keyboard and just relax. Just the same way that you can physically relax and go, and just stop and rest your body. Just rest your mind right now. Just let go. Find that perfect balance. You don't want to be too lazy and fall asleep or get distracted, but you also don't want to be too rigid. Find that perfect place of stillness. You can use your breath as an anchor, keeping you in a place of rhythm. But again, just casually and restfully, just look at that keyboard in front of you. Just relax. What we're doing is we're taking a break from our psyche activity. Our mind is always on the hamster wheel. Don't worry about why you're looking at a keyboard. Just relax. That worry and that thought is just another thought that you need to relax from. Everything's perfectly okay just as we are looking what we're looking at. If your mind wanders, it's okay. Be patient with yourself and just go back to your eyes. What are your eyes doing? Just be with what your eyes are doing. Get in touch with nature. Get in touch with who you are. Your eyes have always been looking. Look with them. Be with them. Maybe you'll notice some sounds. That's okay. Be with your ears. Mindfulness is always happening. Okay. I don't know about you, but even I feel relaxed. The Buddhist teacher, meditation's always great. So, okay, so let's go ahead and let's get started. So, I want to give you a brief nutshell of what Buddhism means to me, and then we are going to go over. We're going to use a quote from a Buddhist Lama as our text, not in a boring way. I think it's actually like a really groovy excerpt, and I'm going to go ahead and explain it in my own way because again, this is what Buddhism means to me. But before we do that, we're kind of jumping into something that he was saying, so I just want to give you some context. Okay, so look, ultimately, like I said, Buddhism is not a religious thing. The message of Buddhism is that we are perceiving reality, our lives, our relationships, our existence the wrong way. We're looking at life with the wrong glasses. Maybe we're wearing rose-tinted glasses, so we see everything as red, but everything's not red in reality. But the glasses that we see are distorting our experience of reality and therefore distorting our relationship with reality. And we are in a weird, awkward state. Okay. So Buddha is trying to get us to have an experience where we see reality for what it is. Sometimes these experiences come gradually, sometimes they come suddenly, sometimes they come both. There's different depths of this experience. But little by little, bit by bit, we're cleansing the lenses so that we can see the world as it is. And again, this doesn't have to be some weird, groovy thing, some woo-woo new age thing. It really is a lot of simple things. So let me give you a basic example that's gonna help us here. Imagine there's a dog. Dog's a puppy and it grows up in a house, and the dog grows up in an abusive house. Okay, that doesn't get fed, gets beat up, gets ignored, no love. Then the dog goes to the pound. The dog gets a new family, a loving family, all the treats and love, and they've always wanted a dog, and there's kids, and dogs are great for kids, and the dog is now in the exact opposite situation. The dog is in doggy heaven. But the dog is still perceiving the world from its old experience. And so because it doesn't see how things really are, the dog can't accept the love, appreciate the love, and recognize the love, enjoy the love. The dog is suffering just because of how the dog perceives the world, its world. And so now the dog doesn't love back. And so now the kids are, oh, why doesn't the dog love me? And so now suffering is spreading, right? Just from this dog's perception of the world. So that's not a perfect example, but it's pretty good, a pretty good one of how we live our lives. The reason why we have issues of self-centeredness and depression and anxiety and fear and this, that, and the other, it really is because we're seeing the world the wrong way. And now we're talking and acting from that perspective, which creates more delusion, more confusion. Confusion means that you see something differently than what it is. You see a rope and you think it's a snake, so you get scared. But there's no reason to get scared. You experience the fear, and to you, it might as well be a snake, but it's not really a snake. And if you could see things as they really are, you wouldn't suffer. And you wouldn't push somebody in front of the snake. Your actions would correspond, your behavior would correspond. And so that's really Buddhism in a nutshell. There's so much more to say, of course, and we're going to get into some of that today. But I want you to know that, so that you don't think this is some like new religion or some new God you have to serve, or you have to break your I don't know break your oath to your own religion or what have you, right? So having said that, let's go ahead and get into our text. I'm going to read you a quote that, again, maybe you're going to be like, I don't know what any of this means. It's okay. Remember, have that open mind. I'm going to explain it right after, but I have to give you the context before we dive into it. So this is from Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche. I probably said his name wrong. I'm not good at the pronunciations. But Tibetan Lama, he's considered a highly respected Buddhist master, no longer with us. And let's read what he has to say. Look at that face. Doesn't he look so happy? This guy, you could tell this guy is happy. He's figured something out, right? So let's hear what he has to say. That looks so genuine to me. I love this guy. He says, the causes of bad karma are ignorance. Ignorance is not realizing the true nature of reality. It is not realizing no self, emptiness, or the nature of mind. The nature of mind is just the nature of you, your nature, okay? If ignorance remains, then duality remains, concepts remain, and negativity gets stuck. This is samsara, the ways that we cling to false notions of reality. And when we function from our misperceptions and cling to them, we continue to create suffering for ourselves and others. So good. So let's break this down. We'll take a second to soak that in, but wow. Okay, so let's break this down. The causes of bad karma are ignorance. So let's talk about karma. So there must be good karma if there's bad karma. So we don't want, well, if it's bad, I don't want it, even if I don't understand it. You're right. So there's bad karma, and it's caused by ignorance. So we'll get into the ignorance, but let's talk about the karma. Karma, the word simply means action. And the way that us Buddhists talk about it is cause and effect, because every action has a reaction. Every cause has an effect. So look at karma like ingredients that make a dish. Whatever ingredients you put together and you put them in the oven, you're going to get a result. You're going to get something out of it. If you put sweet flavors, you're going to get a sweet dish. If you put spicy flavors, or savory flavors, you're going to get a spicy or savory dish. That's all that karma means. It doesn't mean there's the police in the spiritual world who are going around holding people accountable for doing bad stuff and rewarding people for doing good stuff. Now, obviously, good words, good actions, the right way of seeing the world, that's a good cause that produces good effects. So you want good karma, but let's get the idea out of it of this like policeman judge thing, right? Judge, jury, executioner. Karma is just the way things work. Like I said, you get dough and cheese and tomato sauce and pepperoni. What do you get? You get a pizza. It has nothing. It's not personal. It's just the way things are. And if you really think about this, no one can deny this. This is just the way things are. And because we are all connected, our words and our actions affect everyone and everything, right? We've all heard about the butterfly effect. I don't know it perfectly, but from what I understand, a butterfly is in a certain place in a certain time and flapping its wings, and then that causes a chain reaction of events that ends up being like a tsunami or something, right? Have you ever heard of the kick the dog syndrome? That's a great example of karma. Maybe there's a mean boss at work, and he's had more mean than usual. So he takes his meanness out and his unhappiness out on one of his workers. So now he's spreading bad karma. He's spreading a bad cause. He's putting bad ingredients out into the world. That's now creating bad effects. And then the worker, they go home. Now they're in a bad mood. Instead of stopping the bad karma, stopping that cycle, now they're continuing it. They go home. They're mean to their spouse, right? Now it went from the boss to the spouse, the karma. And now the spouse, maybe the kid they have a kid and the kid has stuff all over the floor, and usually the spouse would be sweet and help the kid pick it up, but now the spouse lets the kid have it. Why do you always have your toys on the floor or whatever? Now what the boss did affected the kid. And what does the kid do? The kid's cleaning the toys. The dog gets in the way, and what does he do? He kicks the dog, right? Poor dog. That's an example of karma. We're all connected. That's obvious. We live in the same universe together. We live in the same world together. What we do and what we say affects other people. And that's not to scare you, like, oh, I got to walk on tippy toes because of karma. Not at all. But there is a healthy place of understanding this. And if, we gave an example that we can understand, but karma, I mean, think about the innumerable factors and conditions and causes that make every moment what it is, that make you what you are at this time in this place. We were all born in a certain religious background or non-religious, a certain economic class, a certain ethnicity, a certain geographic location, with certain kind of parents or non-parents. I can go on and on and on. All of these things help make us who we are. And listen, there's a debate in Buddhism about free will. I personally believe that we do have a free will, but that free will is not alone. That free will is in this stew, in this dish full of other ingredients. You can want to be as good, and you can want to be perfect, and want to be enlightened, and want to do the right thing all the time, and that's great. Don't lose that. But you also have to understand that it's going to take time, just because of karma, because of the ignorance that's been given to us from our conditioning. And so that's why we have to be compassionate with ourselves and not beat ourselves up, because yes, we also made bad decisions that may have got us where we're at, but that wasn't the only thing. And so that we need to understand this. And what this does is when I first learned about karma, I didn't really hear about it with the verbiage of karma, but it was about interconnectedness, because karma and interconnectedness go hand in hand. I felt like a weight came off my shoulders. Like, I'm not this individual, isolated person that has to do life right. I have my part because I'm connected, but man, I can receive help from others. I can do things and put myself in situations, put myself around the right people, and things like that are going to create good karma for me and that are going to help me change. I don't have to do all the change by myself because of karma. So we want good karma and we don't want bad karma. And so what is the root of bad karma? It's ignorance, right? We'll go back. He said the causes of bad karma are ignorance. There's more to it, but that's the root. Ignorance is not realizing the true nature of reality. And I kind of jumped ahead and I talked about it in the beginning because I wanted to give you some context. But again, I'll just say it again. Not realizing the true nature of reality is like an abused dog believing abuse is normal. So they interact with people in the wrong way. Okay? We don't see things as they really are. A basic example is when we think about awareness, right? Buddhists are all about awareness and meditation and being present. We always hear that, be mindful. That's like a popular thing now. Well, what does that mean? Well, if I'm not present with what is, so let's say I'm having a conversation with somebody. If my mind is not clear so that I can receive from them like an open flow, if my pipes are not clear, I'm not really present with the person. And so now I'm interacting with the person, not as they are, but the person that I've created in my head. I'm not with reality. I'm not realizing the true nature of reality, right? I'm stuck in my perception of them. Maybe they dress a certain way, so my perception of them is people that dress like that are like this, so therefore I automatically have an ill feeling towards them. That's a small example of this. I'm not living in reality. I'm suffering because I'm missing out on this person who might be a cool person, a good friend. They're suffering because now maybe I'm treating them cold, indifferent, or mean. So the root was me not understanding reality as it is because I wasn't with reality as it was. And now I am behaving in a way that the start was wrong. I started out in the wrong place, and so now my words and my actions are going to continue to be wrong. Okay? But there's more to ignorance in that. Again, there's so many things that we can talk about. I can't teach you everything, of course, but we're going to get through some things. So he says ignorance is not realizing no self. So we hear about that in Buddhism. It means, we always hear, oh, we don't have a self. What does that mean? There's a lot of misconceptions. Let's talk about that. Here's what I have to say about no self. Excuse me. No self means that there's no individual separate self. We're all connected. Again, going back to karma and our interconnectedness. Think about a flower. Does the flower have a self? Well, I don't know. Let's think about it. What caused the flower to be what it was? There's sunlight. The flower needs sunlight. There's the clouds that produce rain. So there's clouds and rain. There's the person that planted the seed. There's the soil the flower grows in. All of these things that are not the self of the flower have come together to make the flower. So yes, we can look at a flower and go, oh, that's a flower, and that's perfectly okay. But we should also understand that the identity of the flower is not flower, because flower is just the end of an equation. And the equation was sun plus soil plus clouds plus water plus the person that planted the seed plus the person that's aware of the flower, because if you're not aware of the flower, could there be a flower? All of these things come together, and you put them in the oven, and what comes out? The flower. So what the flower's identity is essentially a summary of non-flower things, non-flower elements. Everything that's not the flower made the flower a flower. So the flower doesn't have a self, because the flower is other things that have come together. You came from your parents. You are your mom plus your dad. So, again, that doesn't mean you go around as some like weird robot thing, like I have no self, but it's just understanding that we're all connected and there's no individual separate self. You're not alone. Okay. No self also means that there's no permanent self. I'm not going to get too deep into the truth of impermanence, which is a core Buddhist lesson. Everything's changing. I just like to call it change. Change always happens. There's no permanent self. Imagine a kid who never wants to grow up. They're clinging. They think, oh, myself is this kid. I get to have fun, and that's why it hurts when they have to grow up and take on responsibilities. But growing up's awesome. I love growing up. I'm glad I don't have to do what my parents say anymore. I'm glad I can do what I want when I want. I can go buy 10 cakes right now if I want to, and I can do whatever I want, right? So change is good. Impermanence is not a bad thing. Oh, things are always impermanent. Don't get too happy. Things are always impermanent. No, we're looking at it the wrong way. That's the that's the character way of looking at it. Change is good, and so we shouldn't cling to an identity. Maybe I'm into rock music, and then my tastes naturally change, and I'm into hip hop. But oh, I don't want to lose my rock friends, and oh, I cling to this self that's trying to change. But I need to understand there's no self. There's no permanent self. And finally, my thoughts on no self is that you are not limited to your understandable, explainable self. You are not that self. And the best way that I've learned to understand this is that we have a true self and a false self. False self is not evil. It's just when you compare it to who you really are, it's false. It's not who you really are. So what I'm trying to say is this. A lot of people, what we do in our ignorance, in our confusion, is we identify with our roles, with our religion, our gender preference, our sexual preference. We identify with our ethnicity, our religious group, our political group. We identify with things outside of us because, look, you're just you. You're just this presence that's here. You're conscious, you're aware, and you're just here. That's the core of who you are. I can't tell you who you are. All the words in the world can't explain who you are. All the images in the world that could exist can't articulate who you are. You are you. You are wonderful and glorious and magnificent, and you can't be bogged down or put into a box. And if you don't know that, you start to identify with what you can see. Oh, I can see that I'm a tall person. I can see that I'm a short person. I can see that I'm a quote, a beautiful person, or I think I'm an ugly person, or we start to identify with all of these things of our experience. And so we get hurt if I identify as a good Christian person, well, if I don't feel accepted by the Christians, I get hurt because I'm not doing a good job at being a Christian. Or if I do a good job at it, now I get prideful because look at me, look at what I've done. It's just more suffering, more bad karma. All of these things happen because we identify with an identity, which again, yes, you do have to live a practical life with those elements or bullet points of your identity, of course. I heard it from a friend the other day. You need to wear your identity or yourself as like a loose garment. Yes, it's part of you. It's part of your existence. But we don't have to take it more serious than we need to. And that's the truth here. And also what I'm touching on is that in Buddhism, we talk about something called the middle way. It's about balance. So we're not saying like go shave your head and have no identity and no personality, okay? Live your life, but just understand that that's not who you really are. And so that way when things of your life go up or down, it's not really going to affect your stability and your groundedness and your peace. And you can always be happy because, oh, well, that's okay. That's not really who I am. Oh, I failed as an artist. Well, I like art, but I'm not really an artist. I'm really just me. Okay. Rinpoche also says ignorance is not realizing emptiness. This is a spooky word, emptiness. Let's go ahead and break that one down. Okay, first off, emptiness is not nothingness. It's not a negative, nihilistic thing. People also, another misconception in Buddhism. Oh, that Buddhist, they just are nihilists. They just don't believe in that we exist or anything like that. If you want the official answer, Buddhists would say, well, I don't exist, but I also don't not exist. Don't put me in a box. I'm not trying to live in my head. I'm trying to live in reality. Okay? Because these are just words that we're coming with, but words cannot define you, and words cannot define reality. So let's talk about emptiness. So it's not nothingness. It's not a negative thing. There's a lot of things to say about emptiness. I'm only saying a couple of things, but some of the main stuff. When Buddhists talk about emptiness, and again, we want to make sure that we realize emptiness so that we cannot be in ignorance and not suffer. We're talking about a space, a spaciousness, openness, an expanse in which all people and things exist. So look at the room that you're in. How much space is in the room? The room that I'm looking at, there's a lot of space. I can wave my arms around and do things. I can fill this room with more things. Space is, this room is emptiness. The emptiness is what contains stuff. If there was no emptiness, there couldn't be stuff. If there's no outer space, there can't be planets and there can't be galaxies and all of that stuff. Space is good. And so, when we don't realize that, we get so bogged down in things instead of the space of things. So let's think about your mind. Your mind also, the nature of your mind is emptiness. The nature of your mind is spaciousness. The nature of your mind is like the sky. The sky can have beautiful days, sunlit days with no clouds. Maybe you have a day where you have peace in your mind and you're not thinking too much and you feel great. That's awesome. Maybe there's storms and there's clouds in the sky. Maybe you're having days when you're stressed out and you're obsessively thinking and you're worrying. Okay, well, that's not good. I understand. But here's the good news. You're not the clouds. You're not the storm. You're not the birds flying through. Your nature is that of the space itself. And when you realize that, and you'll realize that as you meditate, you'll realize that as you go to Dharma talks like you are right now, as you talk to friends about Buddhism, etc. When you realize that more and more, the more you realize that, the more you get free from your thinking that, oh, if I have a bad thought, I'm going to have a bad day. Oh, I feel bad today. So now, no, you're not that. You're the space that contains that. That's happening inside of you, but it's happening inside of you. It's not you happening. The thought is not you happening. The bad mood is not you happening. The bad mood is happening in you. And when you realize that, you don't take your emotions so seriously. So maybe you feel a little weird today. Well, okay, well, I'm just a sky. That's going to come and that's going to go. But if you don't realize your nature of spaciousness, well, then guess what? Oh my God, I'm having a bad day. And you're like claustrophobic with that bad mood. And then now you're ignorant of who you really are. And so now you take that and you make your whole day a bad day. You could have let it come and let it go. But now, because you don't realize your nature, you end up clinging to it. Okay? Emptiness also is about the unexplainable quality of all people and things. And I touched on it earlier, that who you really are is indefinable. It's ineffable. Okay? Doesn't mean you can't have sex. It's a word that means undescribable. And so when we talk about emptiness, we're also talking about that. How, let me ask you a question. Can you define the color red? I don't think so. Red is just something you experience. You just know what it is through experience. Red is empty of definition. Red is emptiness. Red, it is what it is. It's reality as it is. That's what we're talking about when we talk about emptiness. It's just to be with things as they are. And that's why, yes, we do want a meditative, calm mind that isn't thinking so much about the world, because I don't want to think about the world. I want to live in the world. I don't want to read the menu. I want to eat the food. But when we live in our minds, and there's a proper place to think, we're not saying be mindless, but when we live too much in our minds, we're not living with things as they are. We're not with red. We're with our definition of red, which again, there is no definition of red, but we do define other things, right? We define people, we write people off and things like that, or we idolize people. All of that comes from we don't understand emptiness. And again, these things cause pain, and they cause us to live more and more suffering. So he says, if ignorance remains, duality remains. So if we don't see the world the right way, there's something called duality that remains. What is that? Duality means two, right? Like dual speakers or dual sound or whatever. But we are one. This is so good. So, it looks like, I'm in a physical body and then you're in a physical body. It looks like we're separate. It looks like there's two. And on one hand there is, and like I said, I'm going to keep repeating this. We have to live a practical life where we live by those rules. But we also need to understand that the truer reality than what I can see is that we are one. We are connected, like I've been repeating myself. We are one. And this is not a new thing. Christians believe that all things exist inside of Christ, right? Buddhists believe that we're all connected because we're all partakers of Buddha nature or emptiness or mind. There's different words for the same reality. It looks like we're separate, but if I can see with the eyes of Buddha, I would see our separateness and appreciate our diversity, but at the same time, in an instinctive way, it's called prajna or prana wisdom, prana eyes. In the same way, I just know that I know that no, we're one, we're the same, we're connected. And so that creates like this beautiful continuity in your life. Instead of things being broken up in little compartments, you live life. Life is just one beautiful ocean. You just swim around and you enjoy things and enjoy people. And like I said, there's a practical way to be diverse and things like that. But, you have to do both. Okay. So really, we want to understand our oneness, but we can't understand our oneness if we're ignorant of what it means of no self. We're ignorant of emptiness. We're ignorant of how things are. He also says, if ignorance remains, concepts remain. Well, what the heck does that mean? Concepts, they're the boxes, the pigeonholes, the labels that we put on people. Concept just means knowledge, meaning, definition, a notion. It just means how you see things, okay, your perception. So concepts are boxes, pigeonholes, labels that we put on people, and these labels divide us. A basic example, and I hate to talk about it because I hate that this exists, is racism. Race is a concept that is so ingrained in some people. That's an example that because of this concept that this race is bad or taken away from society or whatever idiot stuff racists believe, right? That's so ingrained in them. They see the world that way. That's ignorance. That's a concept that has taken such a deep root that when they encounter someone of that group or that race that they're against in their mind, it creates suffering in them. It creates fear in them. It creates distaste in them, and then they respond to that, and then they're mean to people, and they do. You see how all this is connecting. How we see things affects our world. And maybe you're not a racist, and thank God for that. But there's so many ways that we see the world conceptually that affect our experience of the world. And of course, I need the hot valve to be labeled hot and the cold valve to be labeled cold so I don't burn myself. Definitely. But again, at the same time, I need to understand that hot is not this thing that I got to get away from. Hot is just an experience, just like red. Red's just an experience. Hot is just an experience. I don't want to bring in the Christian monks here, but it's a great quote. Gregory of Nyssa says that concepts create idols, but only wonder can comprehend anything. And he says that concepts cause us to kill people, but wonder brings us to our knees. What does that mean? Concepts create idols. Concepts are, so like a racist, like we're using that example, in their head, this is the truth, and they're stuck to this truth, and they're worshiping this truth, and this is the truth. And so now that's their idol, and that's how they see the world. And so now guess what? And then he said concepts cause us to kill one another. That's why there's suffering in the world. The same thing, same idea. But when we lose our concepts and live with red as it is, or live with reality as it is, and we stop thinking about, oh, I'm with this person and they're a Republican, and then they're this and they're that, so I'm going to respond to them that way and think about how they are. Instead, just be with the person. Just let go of the concepts. Be with them as they are. Just be in a place of wonder. Be like a child. A child walks through so many places and they don't know what's what. They're just enjoying all of the sensory input, this experience. And live like that. Live in wonder. Wonder makes you humble. Wonder makes you a good listener. Wonder makes you a good friend. You're not assuming things. You're not cutting people off because you already know what they're going to say. You're present. You're alive. So good. So good. He says, if ignorance remains, negativity gets stuck. And this is samsara. So obviously, yeah, if ignorance remains and getting stuck is kind of the same deal. Okay. What is samsara? Sounds like a cool, like industrial band or something, right? But the word samsara literally means going in circles, or like a cycle. It means to be stuck in the prison of illusion and delusion, or of our ignorance, of our confusion. Remember the snake and the rope? It's a rope, but if I see it as a snake and I don't change that perception, I'm stuck. I'm stuck in this place of fear. Oh, I can't go in the room because there's snakes in the room. When really they're just ropes in the room. But I'm stuck in this cycle. I got to break the cycle. I got to get out of samsara. I think it's Albert Einstein or somebody, that famous quote everyone always uses. The definition of insanity is what? To do the same thing over and over and over and expect a different result. We're stuck in these cycles and we don't even realize it. And we need someone to come and wake us, someone like the Buddha. We need our own Buddhas in life to come and wake us up, to come and say, hey, look at your life. Are you where you want to be? Well, no, I mean, I get irritated at my kids. I don't want to, and I think it's kind of petty, but I can't help it. So you're stuck in that cycle. Let's get out of that cycle. Let's start to be aware. Let's start to hear things that are going to change our perception of the world. This affects our relationships. This affects how we interact with people, how we perceive their presence and their actions and things like that. We want to get out of the cycle of seeing things the wrong way so that we can live a full life, not a nihilistic, empty life like people, want to accuse Buddhists of. No, so we can live a full life. I want to be empty of concepts so that I can be full of reality and full of what actually is. He says, when we function from our misperceptions, we continue to create suffering for ourselves and others. So how is it that we suffer? Give me 1 second here. Well, there's a lot of ways, and we've talked about some of them, but really, I mean, you can say it comes down to what Buddha calls the 3 poisons. Okay, so if you have poison in your system, you want to get the poison out. So let me be a doctor for you and give you some of the symptoms here that you want to get rid of, or these are signs. Okay. So number 1 is that we cling to pleasure. It's okay to enjoy good things. Again, people have this misconception, Buddhists don't desire things, and I think there's some like Family Guy skit about like someone giving a Buddhist a gift, and it was like a car, like a super nice car, and then the Buddhist person was like whatever about it, or something like that. People have this caricature of Buddhists that we're just these like boring people. So not true. We can enjoy things, but we don't cling to what we enjoy. If there's enjoyment in the present moment, hey, we're having a good time. Yes, this is great. Oh, so cool. But we understand again that everything's impermanent. Change happens, and that's the nature of reality. We're not ignorant of reality. And so when the pleasurable moment goes, we let it go. And we don't stay in our mind stuck and thinking about the past and that pleasure and then miss out on the present moment. Maybe you're missing out on some more pleasure in the present moment. I don't know. But either way, there is an ebb and flow between pleasure, pain, and what we call indifference, or just a neutral feeling. But because we don't know who we really are, because we don't know that we're safe, because you are safe, by the way, you are safe in your Buddha nature. Whether you're a Buddhist or not, I'm telling you, you have Buddha nature. You are Buddha. You are safe. You are sound. You are complete. You are compassionate. You are stable. That's the truth. But if you don't know that, you're deluded and you're confused. And so, of course, you're going to cling to pleasure. Well, my life sucks. Something good is here. I want it. Don't leave me. Don't leave me. You're clinging to these things. It can be in the form of clinging to a person or a job or a religion or a belief. Oh, I feel really good when I show off this belief. And so guess what happens when people disrespect your belief or disagree with you? You want to argue with them because you're clinging to pleasure. You're clinging to a certain satisfaction. That's a way that we suffer that we can talk about all day, but that's kind of a main bullet point. We also suffer because we run away from pain. We run away from uncomfortable moments. We run away from unpleasurable moments. Like I said, hot water is just hot. You don't have to think about how hot it is. It is what it is. Of course, don't go looking for trouble. I don't go looking for suffering, right? Like some ascetic monk beating myself up. But life happens. And we got to face that. Buddha taught us that, listen, you're going to get sick, you're going to get old, and you're going to die. That's a fact. I'm not trying to, bring the party mood down, but if you haven't thought about that, maybe you should. Maybe it'll change the way you think and live your life. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. And even if you don't get sick, you for sure will get old and die. But even if you don't get sick, your loved ones are probably going to get sick. I have loved ones that have gotten sick and passed away. Sucks, but it's just the way it is. And if I can't accept that, I'm going to suffer. Listen, there's necessary suffering and there's unnecessary suffering. Necessary suffering is what I told you. Things happen. That sucks. It's okay to say that. But the unnecessary suffering is what I add on to the suffering that life gives me. Why double the dose? Why, if life gives you suffering, why go, can I have some more, please? That's what we're doing when we don't understand these Buddhist truths. And we respond to pain in a way of ignorance, and we're stuck in this cycle. Let's say your car breaks down, you got to go to an important meeting, maybe you were about to score a big deal. That sucks. But why get irritated? Why be in a bad mood? Why take it out on the tow guy trying to tow your car to help you? Why add more suffering to the suffering that's already happening? You will always do that if you are antagonistic towards pain in bad moments. You need to be in acceptance of all that comes to you, the good, the bad, the ugly, the neutral, the beautiful, the painful. Again, don't go looking for it. If you can find a way out, get out. If you're in an abusive relationship, please leave. But there are things in life that we can't control that are not fun. And if we don't know how to roll with that and how to be open with that, again, be empty, be open, be spacious, be in a place of acceptance and compassion of all that is. If you can't do that, you're already suffering from that mindset, and you're going to cause more suffering. I always tell this story. For me, it's just like brings this home. It's so simple, but one day, I was excited about drinking this craft beer that I found at Trader Joe's or something, right? 6-pack of beer. I had a long day of work, and man, I was excited to drink this beer. I get home, I'm thinking about this beer. I'm thinking about, man, I'm gonna watch a good movie and drink this beer. I'm gonna drink 3 of these tall boys or 2 or something. I don't know. Not too excessive, right? And then I get out of the car, and I got groceries too. You know how it is, you're fumbling with stuff. And I dropped the beer. All 6 cans end up with holes in them. There's beer shooting everywhere. Right? And instead of being like, oh no, or instead of being like, what the, and cussing and stuff, which is what I probably would have normally done a few years before, I'm not exaggerating. I was just like, oh man, okay, well, I'll get it next time. And I was shocked at my own behavior. I took a second look at myself like, who am I? What the heck was that? Sometimes there's fruit and there's good karma effects in your life that you don't realize. You don't realize that you've changed. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm different. Normally that would have bothered me. What's going on here? Number one, I wasn't clinging to pleasure. Yeah, I was enjoying the idea of drinking my beer, but I wasn't so stuck to it. And number two, I had already come to a place where I was able to accept good times and bad times. So when bad times happened, it didn't faze me. Okay. And then finally, there's like a neutral feeling. There's different ways of talking about it. We suffer from indifference. One way of looking at it is that when we're indifferent towards something, we're not aware, we're not present. So we're not present with ourselves or others. And when you're not present, you're already in a state of suffering. So if you're a parent and your little daughter is so excited about her painting, and maybe it looks, kids can't paint, so it looks stupid, right? It's okay, right? Or whatever, right? And she comes to you and you're too distracted and you're too busy trying to be ambitious and be successful. It's good to be successful, but maybe you're clinging to that. So now you can't be present with your daughter, right? So number one, you're suffering because you're missing out on this beautiful moment. Suffering doesn't always mean like, oh, it's bad. Suffering means you're missing out on the good. You're missing out on the good. But now she's suffering because now she's walking away thinking, oh, I'm not important to my dad. I'm not worthy of his time. I'm not worth. And now she's going to take that with her whole life. You see how everything we do, man, oh, it's so crazy. It affects things. That's why we need to want to be aware. We need to want to be present. And listen, that's a practice. That's why we got to meditate. That's why we have to practice. We have to practice it. We're so used to the opposite. I hope that you're thinking, okay, yeah, I want to be aware so that I can catch myself and not do things that hurt others, not do things that hurt myself, not do things that keep me in a place. Because if you don't take awareness and meditation and a restful mind serious, you're just going to go back to samsara. You're going to leave this meeting, this talk, and you're going to go back to the cycle that you were in, and that's it. Not good, but you can change that. But let's not end it on a negative note. You can change that. We continue to create suffering, samsara. We repeat the cycle of saying things and doing things and also seeing things a certain way that hurt ourselves and hurt others. So that's the bad news. But here's the good news. I want to give you the good news, okay? Buddha had 4 noble truths. Number 1 was suffering. Number 2 was why we suffer, which we've been talking about. Number 3 was that you can actually be free from suffering. And number 4 was the things that we can do to be free from suffering. We've kind of talked about a few of those things. But you notice how there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we start out with suffering, but we end with 3 and 4. We end with the cessation of our suffering or the end of our suffering, and we end with a lifestyle that keeps us free from suffering and that keeps us free from causing suffering to others. And so the good news is, I don't know who you are right now. Well, I know some of you, but what I'm trying to say is, whoever you are, you have the power to change the course of your life. You can be free. You have the power to not create bad karma. You have the power to create good karma. You have the power to, not to make this about me, but you have the power, for example, to sign up so that I can mentor you in this stuff. You have the power. You don't want to do that? That's fine. You have the power to go buy a Buddhist book. You have the power to do things, to put yourself in good conditions, put yourself in good situations that are going to help you see the world differently, help you behave in the world differently. If you've been putting spicy ingredients in your dish, well, no wonder it's spicy. Start putting good ingredients in your dish. Start to, in cooking shows, they talk about, oh, if it's too much like this, overbalance it with this ingredient. Start to put what you want in your life. You probably won't see instant change. Maybe you will, little by little, of course. I hope right now you're starting to feel some freedom, all right? But that freedom, that feeling will go away unless you don't start to put yourself in the right causes, the right conditions. Get yourself, in Buddhism, I'm not saying you have to do this, but this is just an example. In Buddhism, what we do is we take refuge, which means that and what do we take refuge in? We take refuge in 3 things. We take refuge in the Buddha. We respect him. We don't worship him. He's not a god, but we respect what he has to say. So we go to his words to learn. We take refuge in the Dharma, which is also his truth that he figured out. And we take refuge in the Sangha, or the community. Whoever you surround yourself with, that's going to affect who you are. All of these things are causes and conditions, good causes, good conditions that are going to start to trickle down. They're going to start to absorb into your very person, absorb into your very life, so that you can start to see the world the right way, so that you can start to be aware all the time, so that you can start to be happy. And you can totally do that. I promise you can do that. I've done that. And you know what? It's not this new job that you have to add onto your life. It really isn't. I think a lot of people probably take it that way. Like, oh, I want to do that meditation thing, or that Buddhist thing, or that Christian prayer thing, silent prayer thing, or that that Muslim Sufi thing, or that whatever it is for you. I want that TM, right? That TM's pretty popular. I want to do that thing, but I don't have time for that. Oh, it's going to be like, oh, I have enough on my plate. It doesn't have to be that way. In Tibetan Buddhism, we talk about, well, they talk about, drip by drip, and eventually a bucket fills up. Do what little that you can. And again, if you do sign up for mentoring with me, I don't give you all of this work to do. Okay, it's super simple. It's easy, but it also is substantial. And if you do want like to go full time into it, we can do that too. But my point is, we you go at your own pace, whether it's with me or not. You can go at your own pace, and you can be free. So I think we're going to go ahead, and if anybody has any questions, I believe I can hear you. Let me go ahead and just get out of the screen here so I can see your faces.